What would you do if a forgotten moment from your childhood resurfaced and offered you a chance at rediscovery? Rain hammered down relentlessly, the city dissolving into a palette of blurred grays and shimmering wet asphalt. Neon signs flickered intermittently, their flickering light slicing through the gloom like cracked memories. Ethan walked the narrow alley, his trench coat soaked, collar turned up against the chill that wasn't just the weather. His footsteps echoed hollow, swallowed among the rolling rumble of thunder and the relentless drip of water pooling beneath cracked drains. His breath fogged out in ragged puffs, mingling with the damp air as his gaze dropped to the slush-slicked pavement. There, half buried under a sodden pile of refuse, a battered photograph peeked up a ragged edge and faded figure visible through the grime. Kneeling, the cold seeped through his gloves, fingers trembling as he peeled away the muck to reveal a child's face, wide-eyed and vulnerable, framed by the ghost of an arm wrapped protectively around a woman's smile. The street sounds dimmed to a dull roar as the weight of forgotten years pressed around him. Clutching the photo, Ethan staggered upright with a hollow IKEA tether to a past he'd buried deep beneath layers of failure and regret. Nearby, the heavy steel door of a sleek office tower hissed open. Ethan's steps faltered but carried him inside, each echoing footfall a pulse of nervous anticipation. The polished marble floor gleamed cold, glass walls refracting the fluorescent light into shards that stabbed at his weary eyes. The interview room loomed sterile and unforgiving. Across the sleek table, a circle of vast success sat ensconced in tailored suits, their expressions veiled yet sharp, a tribunal far removed from the grime and rain. Ethan's voice broke the sterile hum. I believe my experience and vision align well with your. A sharp cutoff from the lead interviewer halted him, a woman with calculating eyes and a clipped tone that sliced through his hope before it could take root. Vision? Your portfolio lacks the spark needed to compete here, Mr. Wolf. We require innovation, connection, and success. Not faded shadows of past attempts. Murmurs of barely concealed amusement rippled from the corners, faces barely masked in thin smiles that pricked like barbs. Ethan's throat tightened, the sting of rejection like rain beneath his skin cold, relentless. The words echoed in the sterile room, a symphony of dismissal. We appreciate the effort, but we're looking for someone else, the lead said finally, her gaze piercing, dismissive. He nodded, swallowing back a tide of humiliation that burned behind his eyes. The murmurs swelled into an invisible wave crashing upon his fractured self-esteem. Rising, Ethan's fingers nervously curled around the photo in his pocket, his only companion in this sea of polished success. The dog-eared edges translated into aching déjà vu. Outside, the city's storm showed no mercy. The glass doors slid open, and Ethan stepped again into rain-soaked streets, swallowed by shadows and neon, footsteps merging with the city's relentless pulse. Bent street lamps cast pools of dim yellow light, their halos flickering like fading dreams. Ethereal fog rolled in, wrapping the deserted alleys with cold fingers, as if the city itself mourned alongside him. Ethan paused beneath a flickering sign, rain tracing icy rivers down his face, swallowed by the night's shrouded silence. The weight of invisibility pressed heavy, the taste of failure bitter on his tongue. In the distance, the rhythmic patter of paws heralded a small figure bounding toward him. His golden retriever, tail wagging against the shadows, a beacon of unwavering loyalty amid the storm. Kneeling, Ethan scooped his dog into a tired embrace. The warmth, the steady pulse beneath fur and skin, steadied a breaking soul. Between glistening eyes and renewed heartbeat, the battered photo slipped from his coat pocket to the slick cobblestones, a silent promise waiting beneath the rain. The city breathed around Themwet, weary, waiting an echo of Ethan's lost past and blade-sharp hope. His gaze lingered on the half-buried photo, the cold rain blurring edges into a watercolor of forgotten time and unspoken longing. A soft whine from his dog, faithful as ever, punctuated the thick silence as Ethan's fingers reached downward, trembling, to reclaim the fragile tie to what once was Sand, what might still be. The rain continued its mournful cadence, drumming relentlessly against the city streets as Ethan moved through the gray wash of evening. His footsteps faltered beneath the dull glow of flickering streetlights, reflections pooling in puddles that swallowed the world's edges like forgotten memories. The night seemed to fold inwards, a tight spiral of isolation, where every sound was muted and every breath drawn shallow. His trench coat hung heavy and damp against his frame, the worn fabric a shroud that seemed to absorb the cold, the rejection, the years of quiet desperation. The weight of the day pressed against him, a crushing fog of inadequacy swirling beneath the rain's unyielding curtain. The laughter, the sharp eyes of the gallery's decision-makers, the whispered dismissals they echoed relentlessly inside him, a silent symphony of failure. The city's heartbeat pulsed around the busy intersections, but Ethan was adrift, a solitary driftwood piece caught in the merciless tide of disillusionment. He passed beneath the shadowed arch of a bridge, water dripping from steel beams like slow tears, the smog hazing the distant lights into a soft blur. His lungs ached with the effort of carrying the weight of an unfulfilled dream. Turning a corner, he stepped into the dim hallway of his modest apartment building. The flickering overhead light buzzed as he ascended the narrow stairs, each step an echo of the day's humiliation crashing down upon him like an unrelenting wave. His key trembled in his hand, an instrument of return to an empty sanctuary that offered no solace. Inside, the apartment was cloaked in shadows and silence, the stale scent of loneliness permeating the air. Boxes of failed manuscripts and discarded notebooks lay scattered, a graveyard of faded hope. A half-finished cup of coffee sat abandoned on the small kitchen table, its bitter aroma a reminder of restless nights consumed by self-doubt. Ethan's gaze fell upon the floor, where a soft rustling broke the stillness. His golden retriever emerged cautiously from the shadows, the sole beacon of warmth and unwavering loyalty amidst the encroaching gloom. The dog's eyes, deep pools of understanding, met his, offering silent companionship against the tide of despair. Kneeling, Ethan wrapped his arms around the dog's neck, drawing faint comfort in the gentle weight. The wet fur absorbed the tears that slipped silently down his cheeks, a delicate dance of fragility and strength. For a fleeting moment, the suffocating veil of rejection lifted, replaced by a fragile ember of resilience. In the quiet aftermath, amidst the steady drip of rain from the leaky window frame, an unexpected glint caught his eye, a half-hidden, muddy photograph peeking from beneath a scuffed shoe. He glanced downward, fingers curling gently around the worn edges. The image, blurred and weathered, bore the ghost of a forgotten pasta child standing beside a woman framed in loving embrace. His breath caught, heart tightening with a mixture of nostalgia and aching questions. The photograph was more than paper. It was a key, a whisper from a life once held, now distant but not lost. The dog nudged the photo forward, a silent urge for him to clutch onto the fragile tether. Ethan unfolded the image slowly, fingertips tracing its faded contours as if searching for hidden meaning. Outside, the rain softened to a steady mist, a fragile cleansing of the night. Inside, a spark flickered, the seed of a journey amidst the shadows, a chance to reclaim a story thought buried. Ethan's eyes, once dulled by defeat, gleamed faintly in the muted light, a fragile protest against the void. The city breathed around him, cold, vast, yet alive. And in that moment, with the weathered photo clutched close and his loyal companion at his side, Ethan stirred from the depths of silence, a lone soul poised at the cusp of rediscovery. The rain fell in steady sheets now, drenching the cracked pavement as it cloaked the city in a muted gray, the relentless patter of droplets mixing with the distant hum of late-night traffic. The apartment's narrow hallway stretched before Ethan like a tunnel of solitude as his dog's wet nose nudged at his hand, breaking through the dense fog of his despair. The loyal eyes of his golden retriever shone with unspoken understanding, a beacon amid the swirling tempest of self-doubt. Ethan sank into the cracked leather armchair, the weight of failure pressing into his shoulders with a familiar heaviness. Around him, The sparse apartment felt cavernous, the empty photo frames, the barren shelves, the silent reminders of dreams deferred and promises broken. His breath caught as the dog shifted suddenly, vibrating with restless energy. It was then the dog dropped something at Ethan's feet, a small, grimy object partially covered in the mud tracked in from the rain outside. Kneeling, Ethan's fingers trembled as they uncovered a weathered photograph, its edges frayed and soaked. The image was faint but unmistakable. A young boy, wide-eyed and sunlit, cradled by the arms of a woman whose smile was an enigma sunbeam behind a veil. Memories flickered at the edges of Ethan's consciousness, fragments of another life buried beneath years of silence. The room seemed to pulse with renewed breath and texture. Moments ago shrouded in shadow, the faint glow of streetlight seeped through the rain-speckled windows, catching in the water droplets on the photo, illuminating the worn sepia tones. The photograph was more than a relic. It was a key, a whisper of a story waiting to be reclaimed. Ethan's heart tightened, a theater of emotions playing behind the flicker of faded smiles, regret, longing, a fierce surge of protective instinct. His dog, faithful and steady, nudged the picture closer, animating the scene with steadfast companionship amid the isolation. A sudden clatter in the quiet apartment startled Ethan, pulling his gaze to the window. Shadows shifted in the slick alley below, distorted figures weaving through the rain. The relentless city pulsed with life, unseen, unyielding, indifferent. His fingers curled around the photo, tracing the familiar contours of his own small face. The long-forgotten vulnerability now called forth with piercing clarity. It was a tether, fragile yet unbreakable. Wrapping a threadbare coat tighter around himself, Ethan rose slowly, a resolve kindling beneath the exhaustion. No longer merely a spectator to his own unraveling, a subtle flicker of purpose stirred a blind hope that within lost memories lay the possibility of redemption, of finding a place where broken stories could be mended. The golden retriever pressed against him, a steady heartbeat amid the rush of rain, grounding him beyond the maelstrom of self-reproach. Ethan stepped to the window, rain streaming down his face as he looked outward into the mirrored chaos, the dimly lit alleys where secrets hid beneath gutters and cracked pavement. His reflection tangled with the frozen rain, a fractured visage layered with shadows of the past and shards of who he might still become. An iron resolve settled over him, thin but fierce, as fingers tightened around the photograph. It was not just a forgotten fragment of childhood, it was the first thread tugging him back from the edge. Outside, the rain continued to fall, each drop a cleansing, each wave against the shore and urging forward. From the depths of loss, a story was beginning to breathe anew. The rain had softened to a persistent drizzle, mist weaving through the narrow, shadowed streets as Ethan pulled his collar higher, the weight of the weathered photo pressing against his chest like a fragile talisman. The city around him was a symphony of saturated colors, dim street lamps casting amber halos in the mist, slick cobblestones gleaming with reflections of forgotten moments. His dog padded faithfully at his side, nostrils twitching as it navigated the fog-laden uneven ground. Each step was a hesitant reclamation, a tentative push against the paralysis left by rejection and silence. The photo, smeared with mud and wrinkles, bore the ghostly imprint of a forgotten pasta tether binding Ethan to something greater than the sum of his failures. He found himself drawn to a dilapidated cafe known for harboring old-timers and secrets buried in midnight conversations. Inside, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and the aroma of stale coffee, a cocoon of memories in decay. Ethan's voice barely rose above the murmurs as he approached a man nursing a drink, asking cautiously, "Do you remember a woman named Anna?" The man's gaze flickered, eyes shadowed by time. "Anna? Yeah, I knew an Anna once long ago, near the wharf. She had a boy, they say. But the years, people forget, or choose to." Ethan's heart quickened, an ember glowing amid the cold ash of uncertainty. "Did she leave anything behind?" The man paused, then tapped the table 3 times, cryptic and suggestive. Ethan's mind raced with questions, each tap a heartbeat of hidden connections. Stepping back into the mist, Ethan felt the chill bite deeper, but there was a fierce resolve burning beneath the rain-slicked trench coat. The dog barked softly, alerting him to movement ahead. They turned a corner, revealing walls blanketed in peeling posters, some plastered with faded faces and some oddly familiar in their resemblance. A surge of hope and fear tangled within him. He clutched the photo tighter, its edges crinkling as a piece of paper slipped from its crevice. Kneeling, Ethan unfolded Ida hastily scrawled note bearing a cryptic reference to a place, the old pier house. The city seemed to hold its breath, the relentless drizzle muting sounds, casting the world in a muted genre of shadow and light where truths danced just out of reach. His dog whined gently, nudging Ethan toward the Notia fragile thread weaving through the silence. The photo, the clue, the promise of unraveling the start of his fight back. But beneath the surface, a whisper of doubt lingered, a shadow of betrayal yet unknown yet waiting to emerge like a chill wind off the harbor. Ethan stood, the rain settling like a benediction, the city's enigmatic heart pulsing with possibility and peril alike. He whispered to the night, "Who are you, really?" And the answer was lost in the mist, carried away by the tide and the endless rain. The rain had shifted from steady drizzle to a cold, relentless torrent as Ethan trod the slick sidewalks beneath a sky heavy with dark clouds. His coat, threadbare and soaked through, clung to him like a second skin, every step weighing heavier with the knowledge that the surface of his search was just beginning to crack. The photo, a small, fragile fragment of a past long buried, felt suffocating in his pocket, an ache that pulsed in time with his strained heartbeat. Inside a dim-lit cafe, shadows pooled along the peeling wallpaper and flickering lanterns. Ethan sat alone at a corner table, the bitter taste of black coffee grounding but unforgiving. Opposite him, a man he once called a friend leaned forward, eyes guarded. The conversation was terse, edged with unspoken concerns and veiled motives. "You don't understand the stakes," the man whispered, voice thick with tension. "This isn't just about you. What you're chasing could unsettle more than memories." Ethan's reply was clipped, bracing. "I have to know. I can't let the past dictate my silence any longer." A bitter smile curved the man's lips before a shadow passed over his face. "Be careful who you trust. Not everyone wants the truth to come to light." The words hung heavy, a warning masked as counsel. Ethan's chest tightened with the weight of betrayal, a realization that the path ahead was fraught with unanticipated deceit. Later, Ethan found himself in a chilly alley, the lamplight flickering against puddles that reflected fractured images, his reflection distorted and multiplied like shattered glass. The city around him held secrets as tightly as he gripped the photo, each corner a potential hiding place for truth or treachery. His dog padded silently beside him, a steadfast presence amid the swirling chaos. Suddenly, a hurried whisper, a scuttling step echoed from the shadows. Ethan's breath caught, muscles coiling with instinct. A figure darted from the darkness, vanishing into the murk without a trace. Cold fear gnawed at him, mingling with resolve. The miles of rain-soaked streets had become a labyrinth of half-truths and fractured alliances. But within the confusion rose a fragile glimmer of Victoria clue uncovered in the weathered edges of the photo, a name faintly inscribed on the back that hadn't been there before, Mara. The name reverberated in Ethan's thoughts like a beacon, uncertain but alive, striking a chord deep within. Under the flickering neon glow, he clutched the photo tighter, knuckles white beneath the relentless sky. He whispered to the night, "Who are you, Mara? What part of my story do you hold?" His loyal companion nudged his side, grounding him amid the swirling storm. Ethan's resolve crystallized in the rain. This was no longer merely a hunt for memories but a quest for redemption, truth, and self. The city's pulse continued, relentless and unyielding. Ethan, drenched but unbowed, stepped forward into the uncertain dawn, propelled by a fragile hope shadowed by unrest and the looming betrayal yet to come. The rain had thickened, a curtain of cold droplets blurring the edges of the city and muffling the world into a somber haze. Ethan's coat was soaked through, clinging to his weary frame as he moved with a hesitant purpose through the dim-lit streets. The photograph, tight in his grasp, was no longer just a relic, it had become a beacon, guiding him deeper into a labyrinth of memories both lost and half-remembered. His breath wavered in the chill air as he paused beneath the flickering light of a street lamp, its dull glow outlining the wet streets in stark contrasts. There, at the edge of the pavement, a torn letter fluttered in a puddle, its soaked pages whispering secrets. He knelt, fingers trembling, uncurling the fragile paper, revealing a name etched in hurried script: Margaret. A woman unknown to him, yet intertwined now with the shadows of his own story. The weight of discovery settled heavily in his chest, a cocktail of hope and dread. Suddenly, a voice sliced through the rain, a friend's voice, once a companion in struggle, now dripping with betrayal. "You shouldn't dig too deep, Ethan," the voice warned, its tone edged with grit and menace. "There are memories best left buried." Ethan's heart clenched. The companionship he had leaned on now fractured, splintered by secrets and mistrust. The familiar warmth of loyalty gave way to cold clarity. The path he walked was lonely, treacherous. As the warning dissolved into the night, a low whine chipped through the air. His dog emerged from the shadows, carrying in its jaws another photograph, more tattered, muddied, but undeniably part of the same forgotten past. The dog's loyal eyes met his with unwavering faith, grounding Ethan amid the storm within and without. He traced the faces on the fading photo, the woman's identity unveiling itself piece by piece. Each revelation struck like a thunderclap, painful, electrifying. This was more than a search for belonging. It was a reckoning with the very essence of his roots, his blood. The city's heartbeat throbbed around him, rain's relentless drum, distant sirens, the soft shuffle of footsteps in abandoned alleys. The fabric of Ethan's story was unraveling, exposing raw wounds beneath layers of denial and silence. An aching resolve surged through him. "Who are you?" he whispered, not just to the woman in the photo, but to himself, to the shadows that had shaped his solitude. The rain softened briefly, light casting a fleeting warmth onto the soaked photograph. In the reflection of a cracked window nearby, Ethan's own fractured image stared back, scars and all, a man on the cusp of transformation. As he folded the photos carefully, the echo of betrayal and hope intertwined, Ethan stepped forward, the glow of the past mingling with the promise of a new dawn. Beyond the rain-swept streets, the fog curled and twisted around the city, hiding both dangers and discoveries that awaited. And somewhere, in the silent spaces between memory and truth, a story ready to unfold. The room was swallowed by shadow, a choked silence pressing against the walls as rain lashed mercilessly against the cracked window panes. Ethan sat slumped on the worn wooden floor, the weight of the past crashing down like the storm outside, a relentless rhythm of loss and regret. The weathered photograph lay face down beside him, its faded image obscured, much like the fragments of his identity that now felt fragmented beyond repair. His trench coat, drenched and heavy, clung to his shoulders as though mirroring the burden of doubt settled deep within his chest. Every breath felt shallow, constricted by the suffocating fog of betrayal and despair. Memories flared like smoldering embers, promises broken, dreams dashed, friendships twisted by secrets unraveling. A faint tremor ran through his hands, fingers brushing against the floor's cold grain, searching for a foothold in the dark. His golden retriever lay nearby, silent and vigilant, its warm presence a faint tether to a world slipping further from reach. Outside, the city moaned beneath the weight of thunderclouds, streetlights flickering in intermittent bursts. The rain's cold bite seeped through the walls, threading its way into Ethan's marrow. No voices pierced the silence, only the occasional drip from a leaky ceiling and the whispered breath of a broken man. Ethan's eyes, once alight with flickers of hope, now stared unseeing into the desolation around him. There was no solace in the room's dim corners, no refuge in the hollow echo of his own heartbeat. The photograph, once a beacon, had become a cruel reminder of all that was lost or forever out of reach. Darkness gathered like a tide within him, swelling until it threatened to consume every fragment of purpose, every light of possibility. His name was a hollow sound on his lips, a ghost trapped in the labyrinth of his faltering spirit. A distant siren wailed, wailing through the rain-soaked streets, a mournful cry echoing the fracture deep within his soul. Ethan's hands clenched into fists, nails biting into palms raw with silent pain. The photograph shifted slightly, caught in the whisper of a draft, a fragile motion in the oppressive stillness, a flicker of memory unmoored by time and distance. His gaze lifted, meeting the dog's loyal eyes, unwavering, patient, the only anchor amid the unraveling storm. Ethan closed his eyes tight, dark lashes resting against cheeks damp with rain's cold tears. The room felt smaller, closer, the walls creeping inward like the tightening grip of despair. The sound of rain softened, gentle now but unyielding, a ceaseless testament to the cleansing and ruin of all that he held dear. In the shadows and silence, Ethan felt himself unraveling, each thread pulled loose by betrayal, by past mistakes, by the cruel weight of forgetting and remembering. Yet beneath the ache lay a raw, trembling pulse, the faintest ember flickering unseen beneath Asha's tenuous heartbeat of a story yet unfinished. The night stretched long and thick, a dark canvas against which a fractured man sat alone, holding the fragmented pieces of a past that still whispered, still beckoned, still demanded to be faced. The apartment was swallowed in shadows, the heavy fog of winter pressing coldly against the windowpanes, muffling the rest of the city into a muted silence. Ethan sat motionless on the threadbare couch, his gaze vacant, lost in the depths of a void as endless as the twilight outside. The rain whispered with an unrelenting rhythm, the sound of each drop on the glass echoing like an accusation in the hollow chambers of his heart. His golden retriever lay curled beside him, a warm, steadfast presence in the creeping frost of despair. Yet even the unwavering loyalty of the dog was unable to penetrate the thick veil that shrouded Ethan's soul. His fingers trembled slightly as they rested on the ripped edges of the weathered photo, the fragile remnant of a past both forgotten and forbidden. The once vibrant image was now soaked and dirt-streaked, the faces blurred and fading like memories slipping through grasping fingers. A child and a woman, warm smiles trapped beneath sickness and neglect, their permanence no longer certain. Cold air wafted through a cracked door, carrying with it the faint scent of damp concrete and distant echoes of a city that moved on without him. Every sound seemed distant, muted. Even the soft breathing of his dog felt like a fragile thread tethering him to reality. He stared at his reflection in the mirror propped against the wall, fragmented by cracks that spidered across the glass like the fractures within his mind. The face staring back was his, yet it was divided, on side haunted by the failures of the past, the other shadowed by secrets yet to be uncovered. His breath formed fragile clouds in the icy air as he exhaled slowly, each puff a whispered surrender. A single tear traced a slow path down his cheek, catching the dim light like a dropped shard of glass, reflecting the silhouette of the empty room around him, walls stained with the shadows of loneliness. Words had become meaningless. The silence was a cruel companion, oppressive, thick, pressing. He slid to the floor, the photo slipping from his grasp, landing face up upon the worn carpet. The image seemed to mock him, a fading echo of hope now lost beneath the tide of regret. Outside, the relentless rain blurred the city into a watercolor haze, its cold fingers probing the cracks of his resolve. The clock ticked loudly in the stillness, a metronome marking the endless passage of isolation and despair. Ethan's hand reached out, trembling, to catch the photograph once more. His eyes closed as the weight of everything he sought, and everything he feared, threatened to consume him. The loyal dog nudged his hand gently, a quiet insistence that something remained to fight for. In that crushing quiet, Ethan teetered on the edge, the precipice where hope gives way to surrender. And yet, in the cold shadow of that silence, a faint pulse lingered, a fragile heartbeat of resistance unnoticed beneath the falling rain. The night cloaked the city in heavy darkness, the rain tracing cold, relentless paths down the cracked windowpane. Ethan sat slouched on the worn hardwood floor of his empty apartment, the walls pressing in with their bare, unforgiving silence. The faded photograph lay forgotten beside him, its edges curling as though recoiling from the weight of his unraveling memories. The muted glow of a lone street lamp cast fractured patterns through the glass, reflecting shards of a past long cast into shadow. His breath came in shallow hitches, a fog of regret and exhaustion rising from his chest. The golden retriever nestled close, a quiet pulse of warmth in the vast emptiness. Yet even this silent guardian could not stem the tide threatening to drown him. Ethan's fingers twitched involuntarily on the floor as a soft rustle disturbed the stillness, the scrape of a paw against the weathered wood. The dog nudged something toward him, a fragment, dirt-smudged and barely distinguishable in the gloom. Ethan's hand closed slowly around the fragile piece, the texture rough beneath his fingertips. As he drew it closer, the faint illumination revealed a corner of a second photograph, bearing a name scrawled in shaky script, Anna. His heart, battered and worn, stuttered in sudden recognition. The woman from the enigmatic photo, from the whispered shadows of a forgotten kinship. A distant thunder rolled, echoing the tumult inside him, the storm outside a mirror to his roiling thoughts. Despite the depth of despair, the smallest ember of clarity sparked a fragile hope flickering in the cavernous dark. Ethan's gaze lifted, meeting the cracked mirror propped against the wall. His reflection fractured yet unyielding, gazing back with the solemn weight of a man poised at the edge of transformation. In the glass harboring broken light, he saw not just the sum of his failures but the promise of a story still unfolding. A murmur escaped his lips, scarcely audible above the rain. Not yet, not over. The room seemed to breathe in answer, the soft rustle of pages caught in a draft, a whisper of movement, silent assurances carried on the breath of change. Outside, the rain softened, the relentless battering easing into a gentle patter, a cleansing rhythm. Through the window, the city's distant lights shone with renewed warmth, tinting the storm-washed streets in golden hues. In that fragile interplay between darkness and light, despair and hope, Ethan reached a pivotal and spoken decision anchoring him against the tide. The photograph and its newly found counterpart, the steadfast loyalty of his dog, and the storm's soft retreat wove together a fragile lifeline. Though the path ahead remained shrouded in mystery and pain, the first breath of dawn had begun to stir. And as the camera pulled back, capturing Ethan silhouetted against the slowly brightening sky, the story held its breath, poised on the cusp of renewal and revelation, where pain birthed courage and shadows promised the dawn. The first rays of dawn seeped hesitantly through the cracked panes of the old mansion, casting a soft golden hue over the dust-laden air. Ethan stood at the edge of a shattered window, the rain now a gentle mist, washing away the last remnants of shadow and doubt. The storm that once raged with such relentless fury had begun to fade, leaving behind an air of fragile renewal. His coat, soaked and heavy with despair, now hung loosely on his shoulders, as if unburdened for the first time in years. In his hand, he held the weathered photograph, the one his loyal dog had found and brought, now dry, its surface still rugged but glowing with a quiet promise. The image of a young boy, eyes wide with innocence, and a woman, whose smile carried the silent weight of a long-forgotten love, shimmered in the dawn's tender light. Ethan's breath steadied, the cold air filling his lungs like a balm, soothing the ache that had gnawed at his spirit. For the first time, a faint glimmer of hope appeared, a hint that beneath layers of pain and history lay the truth waiting patiently to be uncovered. He turned slowly from the window, his gaze lingering on the worn walls that had witnessed his unraveling but now seemed to whisper of renewal. The room, cloaked in shadows, was awakening into a subdued symphony of light, faint colors dancing on the faded wallpaper, echoing the promise of grace and forgiveness. A whisper of wind stirred the dust motes around the room, their slow spiral like a gentle dance of time and memory. Ethan's eyes caught the shifting shadows and paused, a thoughtful silence settling over him. This was the delicate seed of resilience taking root amidst the ruins. His fingers brushed against the cool surface of the photograph, a gesture of reverence and readiness. The storm's aftermath was still lingering, but within it flickered a fragile light, an acknowledgement that transformation, though tentative, was indeed underway. Across the room, the dog's loyal eyes reflected a quiet joy, sensing the change, offering silent strength. Ethan's mouth twitched into a tentative smile, a visual echo of a journey towards reconciliation and peace. He took a slow, deliberate step forward, toward the uncertain horizon. The shadows receded, replaced by hints of warmth and promise. Though the path ahead remained cloaked in questions, the first breaths of hope were now tangibly present a fragile rebirth, poised on the edge of revelation. The camera lingered on Ethan's silhouette, bathed in soft dawn light, embodying the silent promise that even in the deepest darkness, moments of renewal bloom quietly, awaiting their time to flourish. The dawn broke through the remnants of night, spilling soft golden rays across the rain-dampened landscape outside the old mansion. Ethan moved deliberately through the once shadowed corridors, now bathed in a gentle glow, each step a deliberate act of reclamation. The walls, scarred and peeling, seemed to breathe with a renewed serenity, their decay giving way to quiet resilience. In the center of the room, a battered photograph lay spread open on an old wooden table, its edges curling from the moisture, yet its faded image radiated new energy in the morning light. The face of a young woman, warm and familiar, stared back, her eyes holding a story of love and longing. Ethan's fingertips hovered over it, trembling with a potent mixture of reverence and resolve. The ache of past betrayal and loss still lingered, but now, like the storm clouds parting, hope was beginning to seep through. He drew a deep breath, the cool air filling his lungs with tentative power. The darkness that had once threatened to drown him was receding, replaced by a fragile but unwavering commitment to face his story. He lifted his gaze and saw his loyal dog, steady as a monument of unconditional trust, sitting beside the window, eyes gleaming with silent encouragement. Ethan's lips parted, breath-catching as emotion swelled an overwhelming tide of awakening and purpose. For the first time in what felt like ages, he was beginning to understand that his pain had forged a path forward. The rain's pitter-patter against the glass was now a gentle, cleansing melody, a prelude to rebirth. Ethan reached out, fingertips brushing the photograph's worn surface, whispering softly, "This is the start." His voice was a quietly spoken vow, casting aside the shrouds of shame and doubt. In that moment, the shadows within the room seemed to soften, their jagged edges dulled by the dawn's promise. The silent acknowledgement of his untold story, a mosaic of loss, love, and resilience, became a shimmering beacon amid the retreating storm. He slowly turned from the window, each movement deliberate and measured, the light illuminating the new resolve that flickered deep in his eyes. A flicker of doubt still lingered, but within it, a seed of strength was taking root, an acknowledgement that even in the darkest night, hope could begin to bloom. As Ethan gazed upon the photograph, he felt a whisper of something more profound, an awakening to the importance of truth, of reconnection. The rain outside softened into a drizzle, the world quietly witnessing his transformation, a fragile but undeniable tide turning inward. The camera lingered on Ethan's silhouette against the luminous glow, haunted by shadows of the past but poised on the cusp of renewal. Here, amid the remnants of a broken journey, a new chapter began, a silent promise that even the deepest wounds could shape a future of light and awakening. The first light of dawn cascaded over the horizon, spilling a golden sheen across the rain-drenched landscape. Ethan stood at the edge of the garden, the weathered photograph clutched tightly in his trembling hands. The rain had eased into a soft drizzle, the droplets shimmering like tiny blessings falling upon him. The old mansion behind him, once a place of turmoil and secrets, now glowed with a quiet serenity, as if acknowledging the storm's passing. Ethan's eyes, once clouded with doubt and despair, now reflected a deep, unwavering resolve. The fractures in his soul, once jagged and bleeding, had begun to mend, replaced by a fragile hope that shimmered beneath a gaze steady with purpose. The journey through darkness had carved him into a vessel of resilience, and as the rain washed away traces of the past, a new chapter lay poised before him. He took a slow, deliberate step forward, each movement intentionally embodying strength born from vulnerability. The sky above was a canvas of soft pastel hues, hinting at renewal. The heavy clouds parted slightly, revealing a streak of light that stretched across the horizon, a silent promise that even in the depths of sorrow, the dawn of redemption was possible. Beside him, his loyal dog Steadfast, faithful, lifted its head, watching him with eyes full of understanding. Ethan's lips twitched into a faint, genuine smile, a quiet acknowledgement of the silent companionship and the healing that had begun. The photograph, weathered and frayed, now seemed to radiate a subtle glow, an emblem of the long-forgotten past finally touched by forgiveness. He lifted the image to his chest, feeling its weight like a testament to survival and hope. The storm's remnants dispersed into the morning light, leaving behind a realm awash in calm, a place where wounds could begin to heal. Ethan's breath, steady and confident, echoed the silent vow that his story was far from over, that the lost pieces of his soul were merging into a mosaic of possibility. The camera pulled back slowly, capturing Ethan and his dog silhouetted in the dawn's glow, symbols of resilience, faith, and awakening. The rain's gentle retreat had opened into a vast, luminous, expansive universe whispering softly of new beginnings. Here, amidst the lingering mist and fading storm, Ethan stood at the threshold of transformation, a man reborn into hope, ready to face what lay ahead. The dawn's soft light stretched across the quiet landscape, casting a warm, golden glow over the cluttered city streets and rain-slicked avenues. Ethan stood at the edge of a quiet park, the weathered photograph still clutched tightly in his trembling hand. The rain had abated, transformed into a gentle mist that still lingered, whispering of renewal and quiet beginnings. The sky, a canvas of subtle westpale peach, lavender, and faint streaks of gold, symbolized the fragile hope blossoming within him. His eyes, once clouded with doubt and despair, now held a calm, reflective light, a silent acknowledgement of the journey he'd endured and the healing he had begun. Beneath his feet, the earth seemed to breathe anew, softening its grip on old wounds. The photograph, faded and worn yet luminous in its significance, was more than a relic. It was a promise of reconciliation both with his past and himself. Ethan gently lowered the image to the ground, where a small puddle was forming, the water reflecting the dawning sky above and the tiny, silent act of release. His hand lingered above the picture, fingers trembling with a mixture of reverence and tentative optimism. The storm that had once threatened to engulf him both inside and out had passed, leaving behind a tranquil calm that was at once tender and profound. The rain's gentle retreat felt like a cleansing, an act of grace that allowed him to breathe, to feel, to understand. Ethan's gaze lifted to the horizon, where the sun's first rays kissed the clouds, warming the world in a tender embrace. The city around him stirred slowly, awakening from a long slumber, its muted colors softening in the new light. The shadows of doubt dissolved into the gentle glow of dawn, replaced by the quiet promise of possibility. The dog beside him, faithful and still, looked up. Its loyal eyes mirrored his own, awakening, no longer heavy with regret but shimmering with cautious hope. Ethan reached out, gently scratching behind its ears, a silent vow sealed in that simple gesture. The camera slowly pulled back, capturing the scene, an image of fragile serenity, of a man who had navigated the depths of despair to find a glimmer of peace. The rain-damp earth, the forgiving sky, the unspoken affirmation between man and beast, all woven into a quiet tableau of renewal. And as the world slowly woke around them, Ethan stood quietly, heart open to the unknown, embracing the realization that through loss and darkness, he had discovered the quiet strength of belonging, of forgiveness of himself. The dawn continued its gentle rise, casting endless light on the promise of the journey still ahead. The rain had softened into a gentle mist, wrapping the world in a fragile shroud of serenity. Ethan and his mother, whose face was etched with years of distance and longing, stood quietly beneath an ancient oak, its branches swaying softly as if whispering secrets of long-ago days. The weathered photograph, clasped delicately in Ethan's trembling hands, caught the faint light, shimmering with the muted hues of reconciliation. Their eyes met with a silent understanding, a bridging of worlds fractured by time, secrecy, and sorrow. The weight of unanswered questions hung heavy in the air, yet, in that moment, every silent apology, every unspoken loss, seemed to dissolve into the wind's gentle caress. Ethan's breath caught, the words lost in the swell of emotion. Instead, he reached out, his hand resting tenderly on his mother's. Her eyes shimmered with tears, her expression a mirror of acceptance, a quiet recognition that this reunion, fragile yet profound, marked the beginning of healing. The rain remained a soft hymn, washing away the past's shadows and nurturing the roots of their renewed bond. The world around them shimmered with a mirrored light symbolic of the inner awakening, of forgiveness and the acceptance of all that had come before. In that silent, sacred space, Ethan closed his eyes briefly, feeling the pulse of the life they now shared, an unbreakable cord of love and truth stretching into the future. His heart, battered and bruised, was mending each beat, a testament to resilience, to the power of rediscovered belonging. The camera drew back slowly, capturing their figures small against the vast, awakening landscape, yet vast in their newfound serenity. The rain's gentle lullaby persisted, a hymn of peace echoing through the quiet dawn. And in the stillness, Ethan and his mother stood united, embracing the profound truth that even the deepest wounds, when met with love and forgiveness, could give rise to a new world, a fragile but enduring dawn. The rain softened into a gentle mist, cloaking the quiet dawn in a shroud of serenity. Ethan and his mother, her face weathered by years yet glowing with quiet relief, stood silently beneath the ancient oak, its leaves shimmering with dew, whispering tales of long-awaited reunions. The weathered photograph, still clasped tightly in Ethan's hand, radiated the softest glow in the newborn light, a symbol of roots restored and memories reclaimed. Their eyes met, conveying a lifetime of unspoken truths of longing, regret, and the unbreakable thread finally woven into a tapestry of understanding. The space between them, once filled with unresolved shadows and distant longing, now brimmed with tenderness and acceptance. A faint breeze stirred the leaves, carrying a whisper of healing across the earth, a gentle lullaby for their fractured past, now at last mended. Ethan's grip tightened momentarily around the photograph, a gesture tender and firm, emblematic of his resolve. The storm's fury had abated, leaving behind a tranquil landscape, bathed in amber and gold, alive with quiet promise. In that quiet moment, Ethan's gaze drifted heavenward, the rising sun painting sky and clouds in hues of hope. The world around them seemed to breathe with a newfound peace and acceptance that even the deepest wounds, when met with love and forgiveness, could blossom into everlasting light. Their figures stood in silence, a testament to the Journeyan odyssey through darkness to dawn, from loss to belonging. The rain had done its work, the storm had cleansed and consoled. Now, in the stillness, the camera gently pulled back, capturing this sacred tableoth weathered man, the weathered woman, and the loyal Doga circle of life, love, and liberation. As the scene faded into the glow of dawn, the last whisper of rain fell softly, a metaphor for renewal, silent, yet profound. The silent image lingered, a symbol of healing, of roots and branches intertwined, an eternal embrace in the quiet, sacred hush of a peace reborn. Have you ever found something that led to an unexpected reunion? Share your story below.